always trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Is that going to be?
4 years after the brutal civil war between the Tamil Tigers and government forces in Sri Lanka. Hopes for a better future with mutual respect and consideration looking increasingly dashed, at least according to a human rights report released just a few days ago by the United Nations. It paints a grim picture of the country. The military is dominating life in many areas, it says. Critics of the government abused, silenced or killed. Minorities such as Hindus, Christians and Muslims attacked. All under the watch of President Rajapaksa, who was elected in 2005 and re-elected by his people 3 years ago. A man pushing the country, the UN says, in an authoritarian direction. All these accusations vehemently dismissed by the government and its supporters in a war of words, suggesting the report is coloured by the personal background of the chief UN officer for human rights, Nave Pillay, whose own ancestors trace back to Sri Lanka, even resorting to name-calling, labelling her the Tamil Tigress of the UN, remarks that Pillay calls offensive. For the first time, we'll discuss all this with the President of Sri Lanka himself on Talk to AlJazeera. President Mahinda Rajapaksa, thank you for talking to AlJazeera. Let me start by asking you, it's now 4 years since the end of your civil war. What is the state of your country now?
For the last 4 years, we have managed to develop the country, infrastructure and the reconciliation in the north and the east. When you take north, where the war was going on, we have managed to build all the infrastructure, and we have spent about $3 billion to do that. And we have released almost all prisoners of war at that time. The people who came and surrendered to us, other than few criminals, where they have criminal cases. So it is up to the judiciary to act on that. Otherwise, we have released all of them, because I believe that the rehabilitation must be done through the society. The society must rehabilitate them. And I can see some good results, because in the last elections, provincial council election, 80% voted. So that shows that their attitude had been changed.
You present a positive picture, but you're still getting international criticism. I know when you spoke to the UN General Assembly, you said the world needs no policing by a few states. What did you mean by that?
Yes, because some people think that, some states think that they are the police. I mean, they have to, they will talk about other people, other countries, and they will try to push or by force make them difficult.
Which states do you mean by that? Western states?
Some.
Because some of the, one of the countries that has voted against Sri Lanka a number of times in international resolutions is your big neighbour, India.
We have a very close relationship with India because he is our neighbour. But they have their own political issues. We understand their issues.
The latest criticism of Sri Lanka has come, as you know, from the most senior human rights official of the UN, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Nave Pillay. She came to your country, she met you on that visit, and when she went away and she wrote her latest report, she says the government's heading in an increasingly authoritarian direction. What do you make of that?
This is what I can't understand. For the last 5 years, we had about 19 elections. Provincial council election, then parliamentary, every 4 years. My term is 6 years. But last year, I went for election within 4 years. And it's up to the people to decide on governments.
Let me read something else from what she said. Surveillance and harassment appears to be getting worse in Sri Lanka, which is a country where critical voices are quite often attacked or even permanently silenced. What do you make of those words?
No, I reject all that. I mean, this is what I can't understand. When a person come here, we have a we have an opposition. You must always remember, in a democratic country, it's not like a dictatorial country where a dictator is there. So there are other views. So the opposition is always trying to defeat the government, whether it is with the international community or with inside the country.
So what's your view of Nave Pillay?
I think this is what I said. But people of Sri Lanka thinks that she had written the report before she came to Sri Lanka. This is what they think. So I mentioned that to her. But when she met me, she didn't complain about anything.
She's complaining now about
Yes.
the way she was treated on her trip. She says
Yeah,
that some members of the government were describing her as the Tamil tigress of the UN. She says that some of your ministers have been making falsehoods about her, including one of your brothers.
You must remember, this is a democratic country. Democracy is there. They can say anything. I mean, I have a cabinet of 58 people. From Trotskyites, I have a world only Trotskyite member of parliament. He is in my cabinet. The Moscow wing Communist Party members are there. The right wing extremists are there. The religious extremists, all this type of, Tamil, the Sinhala, the Muslim. So we have all these people in the cabinet. So they are all working together. I have to manage them. But individual MPs, ministers, or officials, they can say anything they want.
What do you make of her comments that some of the people she met were harassed by the government and government forces?
No. I asked, she never told us this. Otherwise, I would have inquired into it. Because she never mentioned that to me till she came out in public. When she met me, she would have told me about this if it happened. I don't know why she said this, because we will never do that. Why should we? Then we would have stopped her coming in if we want to know. But we allowed her to go anywhere, allowed her to meet anybody she wants. And we knew that these people will say these things. I mean, most of them who are opposed to the government, they can say anything they want. But we allowed them to do that. We would have stopped it. Don't you think so?
Let me turn specifically now to the situation in the north. As you've mentioned, there have just been elections, provincial council elections taking place in various places, including the north. What does that show?
That shows, the free and fair elections had gone, and we have lost that. Before the elections, we knew about it. There were incidents, earlier incidents when they had elections, they rigged the elections. Well, famous in Sri Lanka at that time. But we have given a very fair election for them.
You say it's a fair election. Let's just look at the results.
And not only me, but even the monitors who came there. From the European Union.
Well, there were monitors also from South Asian Monitoring Group, from the Commonwealth Observers.
Yes.
They said a heavy presence and influence of the military support for particular candidates, intimidation of the electorate, candidates and party supporters.
No,
Freedom of assembly didn't take place. There was an attack on one of the female candidates. And this is a direct quote. The role of the military was a significant obstacle to a credible electoral process. That's from the Commonwealth Observers.
The results itself shows it different. I mean, this is all, I would say, what is the results?
Well, let me tell you what the results are. The results are that
when the results come.
Yep, and 30 out of 38 seats went to the Tamil National Alliance. A pretty rare setback for you.
No, that's true. We knew it will happen. I knew. I told this. When I can remember some of the foreign journalists or foreign ambassadors asked me, what do you think about the election? I said, we will get about 7, or between 7 and 10. I was wrong because we got only 7.
So the people have spoken. Will you listen to what
Because
they said?
I knew what was going on. I knew that we are going to lose. I told even the TNA leader that we are going to give you the election. You will win. We know our results, but we want to have it. We want you to take the responsibility, because anybody can criticize. Let them deliver now.
Okay, well, they have had a manifesto in their election. They made it quite clear what they wanted, and the people voted for it. They want the army to withdraw from the north, and they want a degree of autonomy. Will you now give them that?
No. Do you know that first they said something like that, and they changed it, because army is not there. They can't ask army to be withdrawn. Then, if the other provincial councils also ask me to withdraw their army camps from all over the country, where can I have the army? Are somebody else going to give me a place to keep the army?
Maybe you don't need such a large army. You don't
Why
have a
can't
war.
we?
We don't have a war anymore.
Well, you think so? No, for security we need army. I mean, we decide on our security and the strength. How many army people we need. And do you think that when army is discontinued, what will happen? We after war, Vietnam War, what happened? So we have to change.
But do you think
we have to change their attitudes. We have to rehabilitate them also.
Mr. President, do you think you have too many soldiers, though?
No,
in the
we
north?
don't have.
Reliable estimate that I saw: 1 soldier to every 3 civilians in the north of Sri Lanka.
It's wrong. It's completely a wrong statistics. Because we have about 12, I think 8,000 to 12,000 armed personnel in that area.
Okay, well, let me quote from Navi Pillai's report. The military is putting down roots in civilian areas. It talks about the acquisition of private land to build military camps and installations, including a holiday resort.
We have released all the private lands. And we have kept certain areas where the port is. We have taken over some lands and kept, because we have given up all the other lands.
She also says that the military is even involved in education, agriculture and tourism.
This is what I can't understand. How can she say these things? Agriculture? I mean, they must eat. So when they have no other work, they do agriculture. They are not going and teaching in schools. She must be referring to this school cadet. We have some cadet, what do you call this, cadet corps for school children.
She is unhappy too that there's not been what she says is a credible inquiry.
She's always been unhappy with us.
No, I understand.
From the beginning.
But can I raise this specific point? She doesn't think you've yet had a credible inquiry into what happened at the end of the war, and she's giving you until March next year to have one. What's your response to that? Because it's the main point in her report, I think.
Now, with 30 years of war, she wants only the last few days. Why? Why? I can't understand. So we must look into the whole 30 years. What happened? Now if somebody asks us, now what happened in Hiroshima, in Japan, after the war, are we going to inquire into that? So, I mean, you have to be, fair in this game, because for the treatment must be equal to all countries. But when now with last 2 days, now see what we can tell you. We are very open. And the AlJazeera went there. They were in front of the battlefield. We allowed them to go there.
I don't think AlJazeera was able to go in every part of northern Sri Lanka at the time.
But we allowed them to go there.
Do you believe the army did anything wrong in that period?
I don't think so, because they were well trained. Because otherwise, the last few days, will the IDPs, I mean the people who was kept there hostage by the LTT, cross over to our government side. And the army helped them. They gave their water, they gave their food to these people.
Because there are allegations the army shelled them and even shelled field hospitals.
No, they didn't. I inquired into it. They didn't do it.
And you are ultimately responsible, aren't you? Because you're the President and the Minister of Defence, so you take ultimate responsibility for what happened.
That's why I say. But if something wrong, if somebody had done something wrong, I'm going to take action against them. There must be evidence. You can't just say a pinpoint and say this man had done this or this, the whole army without. Then we will inquire into it. Because there are no complaints like that. These are all propaganda work. This is propaganda against Sri Lanka. So please compare with the other countries. Don't isolate a small country like Sri Lanka and try to bully the Sri Lanka. Some of them like to bully a small country where you can hammer them.
Let's move on from the north. Let's move on to other subjects. Disappearances over the years. I know you've set up a new commission of inquiry.
Yes. Because in 1989, when the insurrection in the south, there were a lot of allegations against disappeared persons. They said about 60,000, one says 40,000, it's like that. So I am the one who campaigned to appoint a commission.
I'm going to bring up Nabe Pillay again. She says it's not wise enough. You need to investigate the white van disappearances, people who were snatched on the street.
You know, recently there was a complaint. I will tell you, not recently. I mean, at that time there was a complaint saying that a white van came and took a girl of 23 years old. And finally we found her in a guest house with her boyfriend. So this is what they always try to say anything. If they go even for a honeymoon or somewhere else, they will say a white van. So these are all speculation. Why should we use white van? Then if there is white van, they would have used a blue van or a black van. Why not? I mean, these are all propaganda.
Can I bring up an incident with you that was in August? It took place not in the north, but took place not so far from Colombo. 3 people killed after the army and police fired on protesters who all they were doing was asking for clean water. Was that a mistake?
We are inquiring into it. There is a magisterial inquiry. And we also have appointed an inquiring team to look into it.
Because even
still I didn't get the report yet.
Even those who've been your staunchest supporters have said they are concerned about that. Your former ambassador to the United Nations in Geneva said, the obvious observation will be, if this is how the state authorities treat unarmed Sinhalese, largely Buddhist civilian men, women and children who are protesting against polluted water, how must that state have treated the Tamils in the closing stage of the war?
This is why some of these people are making a political...
He used to be your ambassador.
My ambassador, yes, in my time. We know. Now he's a member of an NGO, a powerful NGO. So they have their own views. So this is what I said, the democracy in the country. They can say anything. Even we were upset over the whole thing. We transferred immediately. We are inquiring into it. So when we inquire into it and find out, if we find out that they are guilty of it, we will punish them. Soldiers. We are not ready to protect them.
Another area of concern, Mr. President, is attacks against religious minorities. What are you doing to stop those attacks that have been reported?
No, it is, there were incidents. There were attacks. Some incidents. You must see the background. Why they were attacked. Now see, a girl was raped. 6-7 years old girl was raped. Then naturally they will go and attack them, whether they belong to any community or any religion. The people, when they heard about it, they were so upset, the relations, everybody. There were incidents like that. All incidents have some background to that. Because in Sri Lanka, this is the only country that I think the Muslims, the Hindus, even the Catholics, Christians, all are practicing their religion without any issue.
Navi Pillay talks about 227 incidents against Muslims. How are you going to
this is all nonsense.
But how are you going to try and improve community relations?
I ask them, if there is anything like that, give me the list. Then I can go through it. This is all, there are few incidents, yes, individual incidents. Now when it's come to some other countries, I won't mention the names of the country. When 109 mosques had been demolished after a soldier was killed on the road, the government is not involved in that. Those are individual incidents. So in Sri Lanka, if something happens, the blame comes to me, to the government. In any other country it happens, it's an individual incident, isolated incident.
How free is your press?
Why don't you go through the newspapers, weekend newspapers, then you can see how free it is.
But 30 journalists killed since 2005. Who's been prosecuted for any of those deaths?
No, I don't think the numbers are wrong. I don't think there had been incidents. We are inquiring into it. There are personal issues. Not killed incidents, I suppose.
Can I ask you about the Rajapaksa family at the apex of the political system? Because your brothers all have important jobs. Other family members have important jobs.
No, others are all politically appointed. I'm not appointed. I'm elected by the people. It's not my fault.
How long are you going to be standing for this job? How long are you going to do this job for, sir?
It all depends. The people can chase me out tomorrow. I mean, after next election, they can't do anything till next election.
How long would you like to be running the country for?
That all depends.
What is your vision?
Make the country prosperous and the people. And I think we can do it. I can do it because within these 4 years, our economy is growing. We had about 8% then for last 2 years, then the 7%. Now this year we maybe have 6.5 or 7. The unemployment rate has gone down. Then the education, 98% literacy. We have done a lot to the country.
You talk about this list of achievements. What do you then say to your critics? Because I spoke to one Sri Lankan, reasonably prominent Sri Lankan, who told me it was a democratic country with constitutional checks and balances. It's now been turned into a family business.
No. These are all, they want to make it a family business. They want to say that this is the only criticism that they are trying to do. They want to throw mad at us because people vote with us. People are with us. They know that we are genuine. Otherwise, they would have chased me out. Our family in politics from 1936. From 36, I mean, we were elected by the people because we are with the people. They know that we are genuine. They know we are honest. They know that what we say, we will do. If we can't do anything, we will say we can't do it. So they know that we are honest. That's why they vote with us. Otherwise, they will not vote. The first time, 2005, I won by 100,000 votes. The next time, 2007, by 1.8 million votes, the majority. So that you can see how they react, the people. When you are with the people, when you are honest to the people, I think they always trust you. You can see that in those results, even in Provincial Council. So I think we have done well.
President Rajapaksa, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.